Good morning and good night. Thanks again for downloading the Body Snatchers podcast. If you like what you hear today, don't forget to subscribe and comment. So let's get started. Enjoy the show.
All right, guys. Good morning, good night. Thank you for choosing the Body Snatchers podcast. Today it is me, Tino, myself, joining with Jay and Steven, I guess, is here. So there's three of us, which is rare. Also, this is kind of like our show fitting in between New Year's and Christmas. Therefore, I think it's technically the last show of the year, right?
Yeah, it's the last show of the year. Happy holidays, happy New Year's. I truly hope everyone has a good time. That's all it's about.
That's all it's about. Is it about having a good time, or is it about getting vaccinated and wearing a mask? Let me stop. But it is though. but it is. So yeah, stop being like a crazy tinfoil hat person. You know what's wild to me? I'm just gonna throw it out there. We don't have to have this conversation about it because somebody's gonna hate me. But like, it's wild that like the flu shots, like our whole lives, like it's just like, okay, yeah, cool, no problem. And they're like, all right, okay,
I love the flu shot.
Let's do COVID because that's taking people out left and right. And they're like, whoa, well, hold on a second. I don't think so.
I don't know what's in it.
I'm like, you don't know what's in the flu shot?
You don't know what's in nothing. You don't know what's in the food you eat. I'm not trying to hear it. That's my thing.
There's a reason polio and measles are gone, but okay.
I'm drinking a rain right now. I don't know half these words. I haven't researched them. I don't know.
You got to go on TikTok to get all your information.
Protein. What the fuck is that? You know, it's all this stuff.
You don't know what protein is. I'm sure.
Come on, man.
I only took my vaccination because of peer pressure. That's the only reason.
Man, it's just wild to me that like that's a whole thing. Like I woke up and the first thing I saw on Twitter, it was like 6 a.m. and it was just like, congratulations, we stopped them from mandating vaccinations in schools in California. And I was like, I don't know, like if I feel good about that. I don't think that I do.
So you're pro vaccinations?
Yeah. Like I'm a man of science, and as long as it's been out and everything that they've made with the booster shots and all that, like it's only going to get better from here. But I have a very clear understanding for how vaccinations work. So yeah, like I'm all for them. Just like, you know, I am for all the other vaccinations that like currently exist that work very, very well, that our military goes through, that all our students are currently required to take. The reason that like the flu is not like a huge deal and all these other things. But for some reason, everybody's just like, my right to choose is more important than saving lives. So it's wild. It's wild to me.
No, man. It's the chip. They're gonna put the chips in your brain.
There it is. You got
That's
it.
the problem.
Because I did a Google search today, and first thing that came up, the chip. They put it in you. It's small. That's why your arm hurts, because the chip's going around there trying to.
Now look. Now this is my thing. This is my thing about all of that.
Okay.
This is the same government that cannot fill potholes in the street. But we gonna really sit there and be like, okay, they're gonna unleash all the chips, and I just don't see it.
First of all, it's like the government, not even the government, like companies that sell information occasionally to the government are already listening to everything that you do, but they're not listening to like what you do. It's algorithms to pick up like, you know, things for marketing and sales and stuff like that. And then like on the government standpoint, you know, they have things that are listed to catch on to keywords to help, you know, protect us, you know, like terrorism and guns, you know, like, and honestly, how effective has that really been? But it exists. So like, that's the thing. I guess if you have a lot of phone calls constantly talking about some really bad stuff, they might get lucky and pick up on it. But the idea that they're going around and microchipping people, like even if they were, what makes you think you're so special? You know what I mean? Yeah. The government doesn't give a shit about you and your side business and your weed goals or you cheating on your husband. They don't give a fuck.
If I'm chipping everybody, I'm not worried about who I'm chipping. Now I'm looking at who's not getting chipped. Now I got a record. I'm like, all right, now I'm on you. Well, what do you got to hide?
I want to get a chip. Let them put something in my hand where I can just wave all funny like in Star Wars, and that pays for like the ATM and stuff. I'm here for that.
I mean, if you have a cell phone, you don't really need a chip. But
I got the watch.
It's never been a big deal to me. Yeah, and a watch. It's like who's watching me? I spent
$700 to chip myself. Like is how that feels basically. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like everybody's entitled their rights or whatever. So it's not like I'm trying to like touch base and all that or convince anybody like you.
No, I believe.
I'm just curious.
I believe the only reason you get it is to stay out of the hospital. When I had the flu, I never got the flu shot because nobody could make me. Same reason for going to church. I'll just make it harder for you. So I would get the flu bad, like once a year. I would get it terrible to where like I would hallucinate. Started getting the flu shot.
I remember that actually
maybe,
a couple times. I do.
Maybe it's a coincidence, but I haven't got it since. So when they say, "Hey, just take this little jab, it's going to keep you out of the hospital," whatever. I don't care. It's drugs. You want to give me drugs? I'll take drugs. No big deal.
Let's do it.
Man, let's do it.
Count me in.
It's a dead version of the virus. So your body, it's like giving your body instructions for what to do when you actually get it. It's training wheels, which is why these baby ass people are out here getting folded left and right because they have no idea what to do once they get in the ring with the real thing. So vaccination doesn't mean you're not going to get it, but definitely is going to, reduce the severity if you do.
And I don't understand because we know that healthy people for no reason get clapped. It happens. It's not a high percentage. It's not even a high enough percentage to even worry about it, but it's possible. And it's never a big deal until it happens to you or happens to somebody you're close to. So why wouldn't you give yourself that little bit of boost?
Well, and a lot of it has to do with the media coverage, just for the sake of conversation. Was it last year? I don't know. We're going on 2 years now that we went into this thing. The coverage was like, yo, bodies are piling up, and and it was serious.
This is the end of days. They've been waiting for this. They've been waiting for something to really freak out about.
Well, once they wanted the country to open back up, which we kind of had to because it, put the economy to a freaking standstill. I mean, I understand that part. And they tried to have a slow rollout of things opening up. And once they opened up, things slowly started getting worse due to people not getting vaccinated and not, continuing to follow the guidelines and rules and things like that. I see it all the time. People that just don't give a shit. There's no enforcing at all. So it's getting bad really, really fast. And the media is kind of sort of covering it. So it's just wild to me because it's people are still not doing too hot. We're better equipped than we were when this thing first came out. But I mean, if we don't responsibly take care of it, it's going to be really problematic, every adult can't continue to work from home. Kids got to go to school. You know what I mean? What are we supposed to do?
And they're going to put them back in again if it gets rough. I mean, are you for mandates? Get this shot. If you don't, you're out of here. Or get this shot. If you don't, you can't come in here.
So my personal belief is, I'm here for the mandate. Not necessarily everywhere and with everything, but I think that.
What about your freedoms, Tino?
I want to live, and I think it's okay. So homeschool your kids is how I feel about that. Kids is probably the number one thing because kids, there's a certain age of kids that, can't get vaccinated because they're just too young for that sort of thing. And it just is what it is.
There's medically exempt people that you should, that's what I seen on the Penn and Teller show on Showtime, that people are medically exempt. Yeah. And literally can't get the vaccination. So all the people around them need to do it to protect them. Because even if you do get infected, you're starving that disease, so to speak. You're starving that virus while it's in you.
Well, and I know people who legitimately have they're immune compromised or whatever. I forget the proper term, but more or less they're kind of like the boy in the bubble, anything could really take them out. Yeah, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. But I mean, that's scary. That's got to be so scary for them. So that when you have people like you were saying, who are super healthy, and they get it and just are brought to their knees, what chance do you think these people have? Right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and
I don't know. I don't know.
For
the way
kids
I feel it,
go ahead.
The way I feel about it is, you get vaccinated. You have you're a different level protected. People think that if you got it already, you're still protected. And I agree, but that protection always goes away. That protection always, next year it's going to be different. It's always going to be different. People are going to say, oh, you're going to have to take a booster every year then? I mean, I hope not, but it shouldn't bother you as much as it is. No one's trying to put one over on you. No one's trying to, I don't think anyone's trying to hurt you or snarl you in some way. I mean, COVID is so unpredictable. People think they know it, but it's so unpredictable because, like I said, it can get people that are noticeably healthy. And that should be a problem. That should be a cause of concern. Flu doesn't really do that. If it does, of course, we're not hearing about it. But now there's another thing that doesn't. We don't need another one that does.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and the flu is just, I mean, every year we have basically different flu shots because the flu mutates and it changes, but we have such a large percentage of the population vaccinated where like, even if you don't necessarily go and get it every year, more than likely you're going to be all right. But like, think about like H1N1, we had this wild mutation that came out of nowhere and it was like laughable compared to COVID, but like it was serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It just wasn't as serious because we had so many people that, were vaccinated. And like me, like I'm not always on top of my stuff every single year. I'll be honest. But I mean, like I seen that came out and I had no problem like going down and taking the shot and doing what I needed to do. So I just wish that, more people would just be more responsible for themselves and, the ones around them. But like, hey, like if you don't do it, like, cool, wear your mask, I guess. So, like that it is what it is.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. Some places aren't going to let you in. Some places aren't going to let you work. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see how their hands are tied. I can see why these mandates are in place. Yeah. And these vaccines are problematic. They do have side effects that have killed people.
Mm. Like my thing with the mandates, my thing with the mandates is just
hold on.
like,
let me just interject with that really, really fast. Just a statement. No, the vaccine itself has not killed anybody, but what it has done is people that have pre-existing conditions that they either knew about and it was sketchy or they didn't know about and they found out real quick when they went in, those are the people that that incredibly low percentage of people that were affected by it. So just to throw that knowledge at you. Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No, you're good. So I'm not going to try to act like I know the science behind anything, but with
you sound like
mandates, right? But with the mandates, like I feel like, all right, well, you can't go to, let's just say Walmart or whatever. It's not necessarily your right to go to Walmart. That is a private business. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like you can't just, no, fuck that Constitution and just start yelling. You know what I mean? It's just like, you don't even know what's going on. It's just like, I feel like people just kind of feel like they can just go anywhere with that and be like,
it's just ignorance at its finest. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like at the end of the day,
it is a privilege to, use society's tools and stuff like that. Like a lot of people, I always bash people for not using social media because it's not their thing and they like to do it the old fashioned way. And I'm like, well, you're at a deficit and things are going to be harder from you each month. As you get older, as time goes on, things are going to be more difficult for you and you're going to fall behind. So, there's not much you can do about it, but it's like, people have these values that are supported on nothing or supported on one source that they just cling on without cross-referencing it. Mm-hmm. So it really
and then the headline culture is I'm gonna look at these 15 words and be like, it's in bold, so it has to be true. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, what we're saying here now is just a culmination of ignorance. Is really what it is. I blame, ironically, like our government and school systems because, in putting emphasis on things like Common Core and all these other things and not teaching people about like really in depth teaching them, to understand like the vaccinations in the world around them. You have a whole lot of people that don't really fully understand it. And then with the internet, you've got a whole bunch of people that like content creators, like us. Again, we're just stating opinions, but you got people that are like, I'm a nurse and I feel this way, and like, there's a lot of bad information that's out there and people take it, like Jay says, at face value, just looking at titles and whatever little bits of information. And these are not always
Dr. Whatever
individuals that you need to be listening
Dr. Whatever says something bad about the vaccine, don't take it. And people are copying and pasting that, article to all their other anti-vax friends. And it's like, listen to 10 doctors, see how many of them say not to get the vaccine. Listen to, click on 10 links, see if they all say the same thing. So, for something that Tino said earlier,
slightly inconvenience me
that the vaccine doesn't kill people. If I have type 7 diabetes and I take the vaccine and I get blood clots because I got that shot, I'm blaming the vaccine. Because I would have been fine for another day if I didn't take that shot and I got a blood clot. That's what I'm saying.
And I definitely think, there's certain situations that, you've got to be more careful and obviously, follow up with your doctor. And I know people personally who did need to go and speak to their physician and had to wait to make sure that they were okay to take the vaccination because they already had underlying issues that, potentially could have been problematic. But now, we're a year into it. There's a lot more information. I don't know, man. We just got to do better.
I recommend everybody, if you got insurance, get your insurance card, download Teladoc, and there's a 0 deductible just to get on the phone and ask questions and talk to a professional. Like, they don't charge you for nothing. You get to talk to them for as long as you want to, email, stuff like that. And it's just a good source of information if you don't want to Google and read through a bunch of articles. You could just talk to somebody.
It's good advice, but it's not on TikTok, so they're never going to do it. Make a TikTok.
That's where I've seen it on TikTok.
Yeah, do it. Make your own TikTok and maybe they'll listen. Speaking of masks, Spider-Man wears a mask. You guys want to talk about Spider-Man?
Yes, let's do that.
That's the only transition we got, guys. It's the only one. That's my bad. I'm sorry. It's just been on my mind. I've been upset about it. But yeah, so Spider-Man.
That's what happened when you work from home for 2 years. You just I'm finna let somebody have it.
For 2 years, I want to go back to an office, and I keep looking at these people, man, and I'm just like, I hate you. I hate you so much. I can't. Okay. So anyway,
now before we get into Spider-Man, fair warning: if any of you still care about spoilers that you managed to still avoid, just stop here.
First of all, kudos to you.
Yeah, good. You must be.
You don't even internet. Whose parents are listening to this show?
How was your coma? It's good for you. Whenever you're ready, Freddie, just start the show from right here, but you can stop it right now. But first off, gents, what were your expectations for this film? Because in my opinion, the first two, they were good movies, but they weren't great. Meaning, I don't know if anyone would go to the theaters again. I don't know if anyone, would watch them a couple times a year. They were good movies. You got your money's worth out of them, but you weren't going to be, you didn't love these movies like you did for this one.
Well, you know what though? I don't know if that's fair to say, because this one had a very special recipe that just sprungboarded it to new heights that we've just never seen. We never could have really imagined. I don't think we've ever really seen in a cinematic universe quite like this.
Yes, and it's not just one that you can pull out your ass. They went back in the vault. They used what was already established and mixed up everything together.
Now wait a second.
The right way.
Now wait a second. DC, did you hear that? Do not just come out and be like, "Oh yeah, multiverse movie, bring in all the Batmans." Don't.
Yeah, they got 6 different Batmans. You trying to get this work, Jay?
Don't do it. No,
I'm trying to see George Clooney come back and Val Kilmer. I want to see
and Keaton,
Michael Keaton. What's the new the newest Batman?
Robert Pattinson,
Edward Cullen. I heard you loud and clear.
That's his Twilight name. Why do you call him that?
God, he's a vampire. He's a Batman. He don't know what the fuck he wants to do.
Twilight movies are great movies.
He's got to get his shit together. But I would love to see him fight an old Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
As Mr. Freeze? Okay. Oh, man.
I'd see that. I don't care how bad it is. And Danny DeVito as Penguin. Yes.
Well, I'm not a giant DC fan. And
oh, come
just
on. DC's good. Like
that Val Kilmer documentary, everyone watch. He had throat cancer, he came back, and now it's just very interesting. If you need something good to watch, a good solid documentary, watch that one. But
that made me sad. You just made me sad. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I like. You're always sad though, so I like to get my hits in when I can.
I'm not sad. I'm angry. I'm angry and I'm tired.
So very tired.
Doesn't the Flash always do this? Doesn't the Flash always do this multiverse back in time? Shtick.
Yeah.
How does that go? Is that fun?
It's I don't know.
The first 5 times, sure.
I don't like the way that DC does it. It's kind of annoying because they're just all over the place, and I've always felt that way. Some people would disagree with me, but for me, it's hard to keep up with. I like Marvel's better just because the multiverse is easier to follow. It's all over the place, but they're just look, that's this universe, that's it, and I'm like, oh,
I see it on TikTok. Okay. I seen on TikTok there was a Barry Allen to where it looked like the CW version and then the cinematic version. I don't know what that was about, but that looked pretty simple. That looked pretty fun.
I love the Flash, and I don't want anything to do with that. But look, but check it out though. So obviously, if you haven't heard, we get 2 Spider-Men from these past movies that are they were just amazing, awesome, fun, exciting movies, both from Sony, but so far apart that they had no relation. They essentially took 2 reboots, and then Marvel's like, we're going to make them different universes. And it's hard to say why this hit so hard emotionally. I know, like, one of the Hulk movies had a cameo from, like, Lou Ferrigno, right?
Right.
And, like, that was, like, kind of a big deal. Or I'm a big fan of The Flash, so, like, DC's Flash, that, like, the episode that comes on TV or whatever. They had, who was it? Was it Jay Garrett? Might have been. I forget. But they had, like, the original Flash, like, come on, and, he's Barry's dad and all this other stuff. And, like, that was really cool to see, to see somebody come back. But none of those hit like how this hit. It just was not the same. And I think, I don't know if, like, that's how maybe our parents felt, like, because, like, those generations were, like, a little bit of a gap.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I've always been a Spider-Man fan, and, like, I have, like, the Spider-Man 2002 poster on my wall with, like, Tobey Maguire. I remember that horrible Nickelback song, "A Hero Will Save Us" with Josie Scott. I was like, I hate this song, but it was in Spider-Man. I'll listen to it every goddamn day. Like,
wasn't that bad? Watch yourself.
Right.
It wasn't that great either. It wasn't the last time you listened to it.
The song?
Yeah.
It's in my shuffle, and I remember the music video.
Lie to me. Why did I?
Look, he's gonna pull up his 2021 wrap up. He was like, "It's right here, top 10."
It'll be in the top 50.
Show me a screenshot. He's gonna listen to it 100 times to make a dent.
That's a screenshot.
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, fuck."
And
you,
I don't
Tino.
skip it either.
That's a lie. You'll listen to Aerosmith "Walk This Way" before you listen to that.
Is that my cat or child, or is that one of you guys?
No.
My guess is my cat, because
it might be. All right, I don't want the girl. I have a girl cat. I don't want her locked down in the basement. Makes me sad because she ain't too bright. She'll get lost down here.
She said, "Help."
But those first, like, the Tobey Maguire movies were what, 20 years ago, and we loved them.
Just about, yeah. And, like, I loved them. I mean, even that one corny moment in 3, that aside. And it kind of fit with the times. We've talked about that before in this podcast, but that aside, like, I didn't hate him for it. Like, I super loved it all the way through. Like, I'm just a big fan.
And side note, at the end of the movie when Toby's doing his stuff, that was still a 2-wire action scene. So, when he's moving, he actually looks heavier than the other ones because they're still using the same methods that they used when they filmed his movie, just for familiarity.
Oh, wow.
So when he's stopping a glider, he's, Toby would have came up and, like, swooped in and, some twist and shit. Toby just goes in there heavy because he's still connected to the 2-wire belt that they do his stunts with. And another thing is the webbing's different. So not all of them have, like, spider web, boom, boom, boom. No, Toby's is solid, and Andrew Garfield's is pretty bouncy. That's why he does a lot of that bungee stuff. And Tom Holland, I think it's just, web is web. But, the way they made it back in the day, the way they made it look, they stayed loyal to how they looked, how they felt.
Yeah, and that goes back to what Tino was saying, like, that this movie kind of had the unfair advantage of an extra 20 years of history and lore and all that. Like, the smallest details that they really kind of went into. They went deep with Doc Ock when they was fixing him up. Like, just the small details, like how it's the same exact way
that
how
got
it was.
corrupted. Yeah.
I was just like, man, I'm like, okay, like, they kind of going crazy. So it's just the detail that really sets it apart.
Let's talk about that. Spider-Man 2 was 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, between 2 and 4, somewhere up in there.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So if you watch that bank scene to where, he's throwing around the bags and fighting Tobey Maguire, and the way he moves, the way he's throwing stuff, the way he uses his arms to support himself, if you watch him on the bridge in the new movie, like, you always wonder, like, how would these older villains, handle these newer villains in this day and age, 2021, and how would it look?
The newer heroes?
Yeah. And the way Doc Ock just holds his own in the same way that he fought the old Spider-Man that didn't look as good because of technology they had at the time.
Right.
That was really impressive. Like, how do we make these guys that, camera tricks and, just, heavy acting, I'd say, heavy combat. They really did a good job with staying loyal to the character, but, upgrading it so that they can fight with Toby, so they can make it look good, like with Goblin. That was incredible.
Oh, yeah. Did you know that William Dafoe did all his own stunts in this movie?
Yeah. He said he wanted, this was his only chance to give, like, a deeper insight into the Goblin, into this character that everyone's been watching for 20 years. And now they're going to be watching him even more. And the cool thing about that one is,
dude was 60.
His lore,
throwing power bombs. Come on, man.
Yeah, he was going crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, oh my goodness. So what he
did was a sky high, and he caught him into a spine buster, and he knocked him to the floor below. Now, his background is he took a formula, and it just made him superhuman.
Fuck
right?
Did you just say to me?
That's what he did. It was a sky high.
You better watch yourself.
It's when you grab someone like a little baby and you throw them as high as you can, and when they come down, you catch them into something slick. So you use their momentum to put them down, and that's what he did. That's why he went to the floor below. Educate yourself before you come on this show. This is a Body Snatchers podcast.
You're lucky that Dwayne Johnson used to be into wrestling.
Yeah, and he's terrible now. You don't want him back. Everyone in the sound of my voice, you don't want him back wrestling.
He's old.
Yeah. If there's one thing that everyone can agree on, you say keep out.
But yeah, that was the most exciting because the Goblin, his only power is super strength, right? Or just heightened senses, stuff like that. And in the
it depends on who's writing them, but basically just in
the first Spider-Man. In the first Spider-Man, that was his powers pretty much, right?
Yeah. Super strong, just enhanced reflexes, stuff like that.
Yeah, so when he's fighting Spider-Man and that, you don't really get the feel of his strength, really, besides for a couple of heavy blows that he connects with. But when he's in the hallway with this new Spider-Man, you can just tell, like, all right, this ain't no old Norman Osborn. This dude is really enhanced. He's really really a bad guy.
Tom found out real quick because Tom
found out really quick, and I love that.
With the exception of Thanos, if you think about everything that Tom's been on screen with, he hasn't really fought any other characters that are remotely close in power. Right. Like we watched him toss around Bucky, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, metal arm, that's so cute. So cool. Falcon, he was like, oh, look at that engine, it's slam on the ground. Like he was whooping everybody for the most part, and he was just kind of naive and young. Mysterio, Vulture, all easy stuff. And then now he's got this dude where he swung on him. He's like, yo, did you not feel that? You're supposed to go down when I punch.
What I would have envisioned in 2000, like whatever, is, he's the Goblin now, and, his fists are clenched, and Holland swings at him. He catches it, and then he'll throw him really far, or he'll come back and he'll hit him like in the chest, and he'll fly, and he'll go into the wall, that shit. But no, he was fast. He was breaking them off. He was swinging like 10-hit combos, and he smashed him through the floor. I'm like, all right, this is a real bad guy. You got to get away from this dude.
Yeah. He was a problem. He was a whole life problem.
He was the problem. Sense. Like Doc Ock wasn't even an issue. Like they turned him into like a dollar store Bluetooth connection device. I couldn't believe how quick they dismissed him. It was hilarious.
And that's what you had to do. That's what you had to do, because in this timeline, you had, Nordic gods, you had, the Hulk, you have all these people. Now, how can you make these guys not look like chumps, not look like, oh, I turned into a giant lizard, rawr! And, it's like, how do you make them translate into this world? And, the lizard man, they didn't really let him translate or anything, but the Goblin, they made it right. They're like, all right, you have to believe, like, if he caught Thor off guard, there would be a conversation. Like
Lizard Man upset me in this movie so much. Like, yeah, it seemed like every time Tom was like gonna get a leg up on the Goblin or something, like here comes the goddamn lizard, and he's just like, I'm here to whack you with my tail. I was like, come on, man, take your ass over there. Go, just for no reason. Like he was like pathetic, and
biceps are 2 feet around, but he hits you with the tail.
Man, and before we even get into all the villains, since we're on the subject of kind of like with Toby. I really think we need to talk about Andrew for a second here. The other two, the Spider-Man movies. So here's the thing. Like I've told you guys before, like I wasn't a huge fan of them in comparison to the others. But that doesn't mean that I didn't like them as a Spider-Man fan. And that also doesn't mean that I ever had an issue with Andrew Garfield. In fact, Andrew Garfield 100% made those movies. I think that like his script was like meh. And a lot of the decisions made, by Sony just didn't work. Like they wanted to get away from the Goblin suit. So for Harry, they gave him like this weird Goblin mutation, and it looked really bad. And Rhino,
nobody liked the Harry Osborn.
No, and Rhino having like the suit, like and piling with the guns, like that was a bad decision as well. Like it really pulled me out. And by far the worst was what they had done initially to Electro, Jamie Foxx's character. I just felt like they overplayed the nerd thing, especially like being a black nerd, because we look for representation and things like that. And like here's a guy who's supposed to be the scientist. You could be nerdy, but did you have to make him like this weird Urkel hangover grown man? Like, it was just weird.
Yeah, because you got to be
home over. Sorry, but it was just weird.
You got to be a nerd to like numbers, Tino.
It bothered me, because I'm like, yo, like, I'm a black nerd, Jay's a black nerd, and we're not out here, on the struggle bus. Like, I was like, why's he got to be such a loser? And Jay knows now because he's got glasses like me, so like we're in this together.
Now I'm in the club.
He understands.
He was in the place with me, like one of us. I'm like, God damn it.
I always loved Andrew Garfield's spin on Spider-Man. I think all of the Peters respectfully did a good job, but Jay said something to me that kind of resonated well, where for the Andrew Garfield redemption shot, where he goes to Tom goes to save the new MJ, and he gets whacked out of the way immediately, and then Andrew Garfield dives in and ends up saving her, and she's crying, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And then she realizes that he's crying, and that hurt. Like, I started tearing up immediately, and Jay was like, "Yo, like." That was closure to something I didn't know that I needed, more or less, is what he said, and I felt that.
Well, what do we always say? Between whenever this Andrew Garfield fella came out, like Tobey Maguire was a better Peter Parker, but Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man. And then in his last movie, he it was the last movie, right, where he dropped the girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no. In Andrews,
in Andrews,
that was the first one with Gwen.
Was it the first one?
Yeah,
because the second one was Electro.
Yeah, because the second one was basically like a redemption, and they made a statement. He made a statement where he was talking to the new Peter, and he's basically like, "Yo, I don't want what happened to me to happen to you." He's like, basically, I started pulling my punches. And I had somebody say to me, like, "Oh, does that mean that they retconned it?" Like, because that's what I think that means. Like, that gets rid of the second movie and its growth. And here's something that I was told to in conversation that I think is kind of important is healing is not linear, right? Like, you can have like, a horrible traumatic event and then like get through, a good 6 months or a year or whatever. And then you can have like trauma from your past, like wake up and cause you to, get all crazy again, where he's at the point where he's pulling punches.
Right.
I hope not, because I've been told that I'm very good at avoidance.
You are.
I'm very good at it.
But I also think you're too ignorant to feel things that would really devastate you. I'm envious of that.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah. All right. There it is.
There it is.
The common man, everybody. Yeah. Whenever I need to figure out like what basic people would do or decisions, I just like look to Steven and see what he did. Like, how was his decision making?
Yeah. I'm so impulsive and I forget so much stuff, and I'm just here with you guys now. That's all that matters.
Like common American consumer, bro, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. How did you guys feel about them Uncle Benning Aunt May?
Oh, man.
Because I cried.
So my thing is, what the MCU has been doing is they wait to use like lines to make them more powerful. You know what I mean? If you think back to the Avengers Assemble, we waited 20 movies for this. You get what I'm saying? And then Captain America finally Avengers Assemble, and it hit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's like, yes, yeah, like this is awesome. Right. When Aunt May said that, I was like, you didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. Y'all had me wait so long for it. I stopped waiting for it. I was like, they're not going to do it. And then she got clapped. And she hit him with the spiel, and I'm up in the theater like, oh no, I'm all twisted up
a little bit.
I'm like, Monica, don't look at me right now. I'm a mess. Like
the quote was fine. It's how she went down to where they're talking, and then she just starts shutting down. I'm like, oh really?
Yeah, like she got up. So I'm like, okay, yeah. like she's gonna be in the hospital probably the rest of the movie. Oh my god! And like when Tom is hurt, like you felt that, you felt his pain, and he meets the other Peters, and he's basically like, you guys wouldn't understand. And they're just like, well, actually, like this was gonna happen regardless. That part hurt.
And I feel like that was probably the best case scenario, because then we missed out on like 45 minutes of sad Peter. You get what I'm saying? Like, because that's what would have ended up happening.
Yeah, sad and hurt
like,
Peter. Yeah, you needed it.
Yeah, and mopey and stuff. It was a solid maybe 15 minutes of that, and they were like, "Hey, man, this is what he realized. Like, this is what makes me Spider-Man." You know what I mean? And it's kind of crazy how they turned like that scene alone transformed this into a trilogy origin story almost. You get what I mean? Because it's like that's what kind of jumps it off. So I'm like, ooh.
They touched base on Uncle Ben, but him being in his universe, you know, we assumed that they just skipped it because Peter didn't seem to be directly affected by it. So what it seems like now is that like Uncle Ben just wasn't as vital of a role as May was in his life. And if anything, I think what made this so much harder is with Andrew Garfield as well as Tobey Maguire, Uncle Ben like dies. Like they're like, here's Peter, here's a death, and now he's Spider-Man. Right, this is like he's Spider-Man. She's along for the ride. She finds out. She's supporting him. She's cleaning his costume for him.
She's hot.
Like, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
He said, "Look, common American male, everyone."
Yes.
Strikes again.
I mean, like, I'm not. Look, she is, yes, but
okay.
Like, it hurts so much more because we didn't really have a chance outside of 5 minutes of like, you know, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility, you know, and like, go to school today, young man. He's like, no, Uncle Ben, I wish I wouldn't have been so much of a dick in 30 seconds, you know. So it's like you kind of feel it, but it's not that sad. This, we've got 2 whole movies, as well as, you know, all the other, you know, little movies that she popped up in along the way, cameos, etc., where like we loved her. Like she was just as important, if not more so, than MJ. Honestly, I would more attach to her than MJ.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
I can see that.
And
plus her little relationship or side story with Happy. Who didn't enjoy that?
Yeah, I was more sad about her dying than Black Widow.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, I'll give you that. I feel like that's different. You know what I mean? But I hear you.
It's death. It was a white woman. You know, you don't get to pick and choose. You know, I didn't get the Aunt May movie that I would have 100% gone to go and see. I feel robbed.
I still haven't
Happy
seen
Days, and it's about them dating. Wow. Happy Days. Let's fucking go. That's it.
That should have been on Disney Plus. Disney, if you're listening, we need that.
Boy. Holla at your boy.
Tom just pops in every 2 episodes. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" They're like, "Act normal." I would love it. Not again. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, that'll work.
And then they had at one point though they have to make Uncle Ben's rice. That's got to be a thing.
I'm done. It's my favorite. That's what Happy always say. Like, that's fucked up.
Uncle Ben. And they're like, what? And it's just like, you know, the rice. And he's like, see what you did there. So yeah, now another thing that I want to talk about, and you know, I know we're getting a little pressed for time, but like the very end of the movie, I was wondering how they were going to transition Tom Hardy's character from Venom 2 over into what?
It's just at the time I was very upset.
Oh, I wasn't. I was happy the way they did it because the universe just wasn't going to fit, you know, like maybe they could make it work, but it would have been a lot of work to make it work. And then move, like if they do a Venom 3 or whatever they want to do moving forward, it would have been messy between the 2 studios. But now,
no way.
Yes way.
No way, because if you would have, that's all like he had. If they would have found a way to make everyone go back and quit coming over trying to piece him up, and Tom Hardy was just sitting there for some reason, maybe they could have found some plot hole to where he could have stayed. It would have just been Tom Hardy and Peter Parker there. That's it.
This is a relationship between Sony and Marvel. So you just had to look at it like going into this, you knew that they're not going to make hand-in-hand movies. They're not the same studio. Like they're playing nice, which is great because we all get to win from it. But there's no way that they were going to give up their cash cow, which is Venom right now, and let Marvel have that. Marvel, the unstoppable force. In Disney, there's no way.
And then like a couple days pass, and then they're like, "All right, you know what? We like Andrew Garfield again. We might do another 3, and you know what? Right. We do have Tom Hardy. So why don't you guys just sit tight? And we're gonna figure this out." Which is good, but at the time, I was upset.
So yeah, with this new format, that's something that they could do, and like we can like, okay, that's a different universe, so it makes sense. Like we'd be totally allowed to digest that, and I have to say, like, I really take my hat off. I think the whole movie theater was like, oh, when that little piece of the symbiote got left behind and was just in his universe, because now that by itself is going to get to create an entirely new origin story for Venom.
Which I don't care about, but
you don't know that. You cried during this one.
Yeah, but if it's not Tom Hardy right now, then I don't care about another Venom. I don't care who's going to play it or the suit or whatever storyline they're going to do. But if I knew at the time, like, all right, Andrew Garfield went back, so did Tom Hardy. You know what I'm saying? Now they can do something. All right, that's cool.
Yeah, if they choose to. And I mean, honestly, I only care if they do for Andrew Garfield's sake. But, you know, Tobey Maguire already did the whole Venom thing. They probably would go in a totally different
Toby's
direction.
done. Toby's good.
Yeah, he's... Like, I
No,
don't
man.
I don't like the way he said that.
I need Toby in sweatpants so he can be like the one from Into the Spider-Verse from the first one. How he was.
They're
I need him in sweatpants.
They're gonna bring back an older Andrew Garfield in 2030 to make that happen, and then it's gonna be nostalgic for this particular movie. We're gonna be like, oh my god, like that's
right. Okay, you're right.
That's how
that would be cool.
Work.
Like Tobey Maguire showing around a Miles Morales.
I'm glad that they did this before. It would have been like odd, like, you know what I mean? They could have fit him in there, but he's still young enough where they could just kind of clean him up a little bit. And now he looks like, you know, because I think, what is he in his 40s now, going into 50s? Tobey Maguire,
he has to be pretty old.
I wouldn't say he's like old, but like he's not 23, you know, being able to flip around, right? So it's just enough where like I think he passes as a good, like, you know, 35-year-old Peter Parker. You know, he's been doing this for a few years.
I'm going to say 39, and I'm looking it up.
He said,
come on, boys.
Tobey Maguire? He's not 39. He's older than that.
What do you got?
43. Final answer.
46.
Tino looked it up. I can tell by his grandma glasses. Shit.
I didn't. Is he actually 46 exactly?
He is 46.
Damn.
Look.
I was going to say 45, but 46 just like felt closer to 50. But I'm like, I don't think he's 50 yet. But it just fits well. You know, it just made him feel like, you know, he's a little bit older than the other guys, but like not too old to be Spider-Man. And he's even kind of like that one scene. He's like, oh, my back, you know, can you pop it for me? Which was super adorable. Yeah. So I don't know. I loved everything about this movie. I went to the movie theaters. I saw it twice. I can't praise it enough. I probably will go out of my way to buy it. I mean, Marvel, like, bravo. I've loved every single movie that Marvel's came out with the exception of like probably Black Widow.
Never seen it.
It's on Disney Plus. Just watch it.
I don't think I will.
Right. He was like, I hate it, but
it's worth it. You just said you and your wife don't have anything to watch.
We're did just say that.
Yellowstone. We're going to try that out.
We had to watch Scarlett Johansson parade all over the internet because she didn't get enough money. You might as well watch the damn movie.
You see that meme where Mary Jane was like, my co-star got paid more than I do. And then Tobey Maguire meme's like, I forgot the part where that's my problem.
I'm done.
Yes, I did. I did see that. I saw one that had like, it was like when both like counterparts or whatever, like MJ and Gwen like come back or whatever, like they open the portal like to get MJ or something like that, and they had like the portals open up side by side, and one was like, damn, what was her name? From the first movie, Kirsten Dunst. Mm-hmm. One's like Mary Jane? And she's like looking over, like looking through. Yeah, Mary Jane. And then the other one's Gwen with the snap neck. And I was like, wow. Wow.
Because that's terrible.
Yeah, like they got the bad timing. I was just like, don't like that.
Well, you know, this is a few years in the making, but whatever that Me Too scandal was going, James Franco got caught in the middle of that. And apparently a lot of it was shady and a lot of it was true. Do you think that's why he wasn't in this? Because I think he would have been just as perfect as his dad, Osborn.
I think James Franco would have done great. I don't think that affected this movie. I think this movie, like, they really wanted it to be, you know, the original Norman Osborn, but, you know, not Harry. But I do think that this would, the fire that he got under it. I remember looking into that and I was pretty disappointed because I like James Franco.
I was disappointed too.
That's going to stop anything moving forward with him. You know, I don't foresee him building his career back to what it was by any means, especially when Seth Rogen, who I liked Seth Rogen when I was young. I don't really care for him now. Like, his toilet humor, like, is not super funny to me anymore. It's like, it lacks a lot of maturity.
He unfriended him a long time ago.
But, well, Seth that was Rogen my next statement was like, Seth Rogen went out of his way to be like, and just so you know, I'm not affiliated with, you know what I mean? Like he threw it out there. So I mean, if Seth doesn't even have your back, like he could have just not said anything, but he blatantly attacked him. I'm like,
and
that's not a good look.
The reason I bring it up is because like a week ago, he put out a statement admitting everything that he's done. So, you know, I don't know if that's just coincidence or, you know, because this movie's doing great numbers, he, you know, just wanted to start healing. I don't know, but I think he would have been in there instead of the Sandman.
I think it's growth. I don't think that it's related to this. I don't think they were going to ask him to come in, but I do think a lot of people questioned it, which probably brought the spotlight back to him again. So I believe that he did do those things, and you know, you guys can take the time, you know, because we're basically out of time to look up information on that whole thing, the Me Too, James Franco. But I think that this is the beginning to, you know, repair and normalcy. You know what I mean? Like you have to own what's been done first before you can even begin to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, so since we're almost at time, the ending of this movie before the credits. Doctor Strange goes through with the spell. Everyone forgets that he's Peter Parker. He starts to become one of the Pores, like we know him in every other movie. He lives in this busted down apartment, and he makes
that's
his own
reflective
suit.
of my life. I damn near cried.
Yeah,
like when his college dreams went in the toilet, and then I watched him pick up the GED book because I'm an IT. And my life has been super messy, and Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes of all time, every iteration just about. But like I have a GED. A lot of people don't know that. Like, well, you went to college, you did all these things, you got these certifications. Yeah, but I also was like struggling for forever. And
right.
like I just felt that and was like, damn. Okay, I'm gonna you just one more blow. They had to get me.
I was gonna ask, how did that scene Tino already answered, but how did that scene hit you? Because now he's all alone. Nobody knows who he is. He has to find a job delivering pizzas, whatever he has to do again. He has to make his own stuff. He has to be so unappreciated for God knows how long, just like we know him in the beginning of almost every movie. Like there was some form of nostalgia there that's how we know Spider-Man before every series or every movie ends. He's just this poor kid trying to make it.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, seeing that scene obviously was reflective of my own life and hit close to home. So whatever. But that aside, I mean, it's Spider-Man always has a tragic past. You know, even Miles. There's only been a couple iterations of Miles that have come out, but like they've been
it's been
equally as bad, if not worse. And at some point, the fun Marvel thing had to stop. There was a lot of criticism about Tom Holland's Spider-Man because they're like, oh look, he's got Tony Stark's
shout out,
right? Who's Tony Hawk? That's not Tony Hawk. If anybody gets that joke, but no. So Tony Stark, I mean, he got the suit. You know, he had all these advantages. He had the glasses and like the stuff that was left to him. And Tony's dead. You know, he had his aunt who was there hand in hand where none of the other Spider-Man had that, which was super fortunate. And now she's gone. And his support team, his friends, the Avengers, everybody, nobody remembers him. Like he's like. Dare I say he might have taken the largest blow out of all of them just to bring them down to the same level. So this is kind of like where Spider-Man really begins.
That's what I wanted to ask Jay as as a storyteller. Is this a happy ending or is this a sad ending? Because I felt pretty terrible for him at the end.
I mean, I guess is it even an ending though? You get what I'm saying? Because they already got another trilogy going. They already said it's happening, and so it's not really the end. It's the beginning. So it's going to be sad. You got to see how he bounced back from this. Because now this is when you get your neighborhood friendly Spider-Man. Because I did all this. I had the help. I did all that. But I was saving the world. I was saving the universe. Now I'm going to dial it back. I'm just a kid in spandex. You know what I'm saying? Trying to make it. You know what I'm saying?
Like, what a plot twist. We watched, was this 5-6 years of this guy just to find out that that's all been the prequel.
That's all been the prequel. It's just about to get going.
Who did it better than Marvel this time? Nobody.
And I don't want people saying, "Well, who's your favorite Spider-Man? Who's your favorite Peter Parker?" I don't think we've seen Peter Parker yet.
Well, and this one, no, not really, not the Peter that we got, but like I love them all. And to your point that you made earlier, I just wanted to come back to that real quick. You said, and I have said this in the past, and I have to say that I feel I was kind of naive when I thought about it. I said this a couple years ago on the podcast. Where basically like Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man and that Tobey Maguire was a better Peter Parker.
Which was the majority.
Well, I guess you could say that, but the more that I sat and I thought about that, I'm really going to have to disagree. I think that Andrew Garfield, from most modern comics in the last 15 years, all the different writers captured both flawlessly. And I would say that like a more original Spider-Man, so like earlier than 2000s, which makes sense because the movie came out in about 2001 too, for Tobey Maguire. I think that Tobey Maguire captured both halves pretty well. In fact, it like when I look at like his character, like the way he dressed and just all of that from the original Spider-Man, like did he not remind you of the Spider-Man 90s animated series?
Yeah,
he was very
100%.
close to that. So it's like, how can I sit here and make a statement like, well, Andrew's a better this or Toby's a better that, when really I just think that whatever, Spider-Man, essentially they were trying to capture the essence of, I think they did a really good job at all of that respectively. I wouldn't even say that Tom does it the best. I just think that Tom is the most relatable with, the current universe and times today. And he's a damn good actor. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying he's like any worse, you're making excuses for him, but, I really love them all in their own way individually. So just throwing that out there to correct a statement that I made a couple years ago.
Yeah, I don't like that because I asked you to pick one. So you can't just pick all of them. This ain't a buffet.
He said, yes, I can. He said, I'm going to be late and I'm a tan. We talked about this
Let's wait till the Miles movie comes out. Jamie Foxx said there's got to be a black one somewhere.
Hey, that was so funny.
Andrew
He said, I'm sorry. My bad.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I'm not black.
Maybe
and I
next
did like
time.
where he was like, you guys are so cool. You guys fight aliens and monsters. I fought a mechanic rhino, my friend.
He's like, no, you're amazing. Okay. You're amazing.
No, dude, when Tom's Spider-Man, his best friend came up to Toby and was just like, asking about his best friend or whatever. And he was just like, oh, I had a best friend once. He's like, well, what happened to him? He's just like, well, like he, in so many words, creatively said, I killed him. And I was like, woo. He was like, okay.
And now everyone thinks that he's gonna be a problem later for Peter. But
they think Ned's gonna be Hobgoblin.
Yeah, and that foresight's so far gone because like he has to refriend him now, and then all that stuff. So I don't think we'll see that for another years. Tom Holland already said that he's taking a break, but there's no way Marvel's gonna let him get far.
He said,
let him take his break. We've got the Eternals. We've got all this stuff with Disney Plus and Hawkeye. There's so much stuff happening like in the Marvel universe.
They showing Matt Murdock. So that just got everybody that.
We forgot to talk about that. Yeah.
Look, so 15 minutes before we went to the movie theaters, I was just like, Monica, if they wanted to do it, it's right there. And that's how they opened the movie. And I looked at her like, what is going on?
My theater, there was people standing in like the doorway for this movie. And when Matt Murdock came on, there was just a round of applause. Like we were at a live event or something, and people were just clapping and cheering. They're waking the babies up. There's always that one couple that brings their baby for some reason.
What's wrong with you? Right?
What's wrong with you? Like, did they buy her a seat? Did they get charged for this?
I hope so.
But man, that was so intense. That's all I got. Go see it. It's way better. If you haven't seen it yet, it's way better than you think it is, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing.
Nothing. Not a damn thing.
I don't like the way you worded that, but I'm gonna agree.
Yeah, you got it as a threat. I said it as a threat. Like, I didn't mean to, but like violence comes out for people that haven't seen it yet. Like, what the fuck are you doing? What you got going on?
I'm just the muscle. I'll stand behind you while you talk.
Right, just sit there. Just sit there. Is your phone blowing up? Huh? Everyone's just wanting to hang out with you every day. You got no free time to go see a movie. They probably seen the movie without you because of the way you act, because it's something like this right here.
I mean, I saw it twice.
You did. I'm proud of you. I'm going to see it twice. I'm going to see it in a couple days again.
Yeah, I'm going to go take my dad. And I was like, Dad, come on. It's time.
You guys are going to hug after that film. I'm happy for you. Oh,
yeah. I need that.
There you go.
Just take your mother and be like, see? Ain't nobody Uncle or Aunt May and you.
Yeah. Now while I'm here.
All right. Well, like everyone, thanks.
I like that.
Bodysnatchersmedia.com. That's the website. That's where we all are. Our links to our Twitch, our links for the show, wherever you listen to us, that's fine with us. It should be working flawlessly, thanks to Tino. So just stay where you're at, and we're going to be here every week. I want everyone to have a happy new year. Don't go light. Be safe. Don't go light. Go heavy. Go for it. Be out till 4 a.m. Fight someone you like. You know, this is it. This is it. Then the new year starts. New year, new you.
What's wrong with you?
I want everyone to have fun. All right. Do not be going to bed at 11 o'clock on New Year's Eve. All right. That's ignorant. You're better than that.
Well, are they vaccinated? It depends. Happy New Year, everybody. Do better next year.
Happy New Year. Later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.